5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire.
Hello, 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 and welcome to the Indy Wrestling Experience, where we talk all things related to the Indy Wrestling Experience. I, of course, am Bob Richards. I am back with Jon Adkins, and we have a full show. Hey, what's going on, Jon? How are you?
Doing good. Good to see everybody, hear everybody, talk to everybody.
Yeah, well, everybody ain't here yet because Rich Buchholtz is going to be on with us later. He's going to be giving us some updates from Ragin Pro Wrestling, a little bit on Homecoming 3 on May 31st, a little bit about Destiny 5 on September 27th, and then we're going to talk about some other things. Rich made some interesting posts this week about his locker room and what it's like to work for RPW, and they were really interesting posts. I'm very interested to pick his brain on where he was on some of these things when he posted them, and some more things to talk about wrestler professionalism, but we'll get to that in a minute. Last week, when I was on, I said that we were going to talk about the DREAMWAVE show this week. There were some other things. Haley J going to Reality of Wrestling with Booker T, some stuff about Evolve going to be on Tubi March 5th. I want to save those for later and bring Rich into those discussions. But the one thing, and I'm going out of order on you, Jon, I apologize, but the one thing I wanted to start with, because I was doing some research on it before I got on, was this Rob Van Dam promotion. Did you see that?
I did. I didn't see too much about it, but man, it looks interesting.
Yeah, so I did a deep dive today on it. I think when I sent you the notes, I was like, I just heard about this. Let's talk about it, but I haven't researched it.
Right.
So I'm like, all right. So today I'm doing some research. Apparently, the OWA, that the promotion is called OWA. That is only wrestlers, just like OnlyFans.
All right.
There's a Rob Van Dam video that he posted on Instagram where he says something like, "Oh, you found my only wrestlers." Like, it's very OnlyFans. It's very Rob Van Dam, really. But when I saw Rob Van Dam, I immediately thought adult content. When I saw Katie Forbes, I thought adult content. Now I see it's called Only Wrestlers, and I'm sure there's going to be adult content. This is going to be very interesting. The show is March 20th in Los Angeles at the Vermont Hollywood, and they haven't announced matches yet, I don't believe. But one of the things that I looked at earlier, and I don't know if you saw this, Jon, or not, but if I'm just going to drop this on you, but the fans, so you become a member of Only Wrestlers for $6.95 a month, I think it said. And as a member, you know, like everybody else, you get access to streaming, you know, the on-demand for the shows or whatever. Everybody gives you that. But on top of that, the fans get involved in voting on aspects of the promotion. So if you are a $6.95 a month member, you get, as I'm reading this from the post, voting rights. Vote on everything from who wrestles who, what city for live events, and much more. That's interesting.
You know, it's definitely a different take, different approach. Us as fans, sometimes we think we know what's best. So this has got a lot of potential, and some of it is to go sideways.
No question in my mind.
I guess we'll see, how much, what the actual fan input is. But if you trust anybody, I mean, Rob Van Dam's been around for forever. I mean, he's been with some of the best, minds, if you want to call them that, in the business. I kind of want to see what Rob's going to do with this. It's got a lot, a big chance to be really, really cool, something really special. And it's been a while since something's been so innovative. I'm excited. Let's see where it goes.
I agree. I 100% agree. I mean, and like you said, it's innovative. It could go, it could go sideways. It could be great. But one thing I'm positive of is that with Rob Van Dam involved and this concept, it's going to be a wild ride to watch no matter which way it goes. So I'm here for the show.
Absolutely.
And just looking at the Instagram, so like I said, it looks like the members are going to vote on these matches for March 20th. So they haven't announced any matches yet. But as I'm looking at the talent that they've got signed or they say is signed to their promotion, Samurai Del Sol, the
Mm-hmm.
former Kalisto, Zaya Brookside, Luke Hawks, Matt Riddle, Bill Alfonso, Charlie Haas, Brian Cage, Chris Masters. That's a pretty ambitious
Man,
opening show.
you got yourself a locker room right there. I mean, that's if I'm starting a promotion, you can do a whole lot worse. Those are some names, and you know what? A lot of them are guys that are known to be wrestlers. So again, if you're gonna start something like this with these caveats of fan driven, you want guys and girls in there that can work and can roll with it and have good attitudes. And I'm not hearing a lot of names that I worry about.
No, not at all. I think it's going to be an incredible show. It kind of like it's like there was Jonathan Gresham had Terminus in Atlanta when he
Mhm.
left Ring of Honor, and it was the same kind of thing. It was like, yeah, Gresham's going to get picked up at some point, right? And this promotion's not going to last long because he's going to get picked up and do other things, and that's exactly what ended up happening. But the first show was just so stacked, like, oh,
Mhm.
and that's what this feels like too. I mean, it was an incredible show filled with mainstream, well-known talent. I think they're going to do a really great job, and I think there's going to be a little bit of a circus aspect to it.
Oh, absolutely. But I think that more than anything, that gives you a good glimpse of um, what Rob Van Dam's thought of uh, in the locker rooms around the country, around the world. Guys still want to work with Rob. The guy's always been an innovator forever. And hey, we're gonna take it to the next level and be the top guy and run this joint. So I'm excited, man. I'm with you. I'm ready to see it. I can't wait.
Hell yeah, hell yeah. So the other thing, well, not the other thing. One of the things we were going to talk about last week was this DreamWave show, Famous Last Words, which
Oh, awesome show.
it wasn't it though. It was streamed live on February 8th, and from out in Chicago. And the show, I mean, it was an incredible show. I counted after the fact. I didn't realize, but that's 11 matches on that show, and 3.5
Mhm.
hours, and it kind of flew by.
Yeah, 11 matches. And like you said, it didn't feel like it didn't miss a beat at all. There was no slowdown. Everything was just boom, 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 boom. The production was great. Everybody's timing was great. Matches were the exact right lengths. I didn't feel like I had any match that was too short, too long. Really, really enjoyable show.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we'll get to the main event obviously here at the end, but you know, 24 minutes is the longest match by far on the card that day. 24 minutes in a dog collar match, but it felt like the perfect main event. All the other matches, like your main event match goes long, it's got stakes, it's got heated passion. All those things were present in that main event. That's the only match that needed to go long, and it's the only one that did.
And it's been a long time since I've seen a dog collar match. I was so excited when I saw that come out. The only knock I would say is that chain was a little new. I needed it to be a little rusty.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on,
good,
man.
very good point.
I need I need some stakes. If I'm not going to get tetanus, I don't know that I'm that worried about it.
That's right. Those old JYD dog collar
Oh my
matches
lord!
from Mid South, and
But it was so good. It was such a fun match, and you know, it, again, it's not something you see a lot of anymore. So the fact that they did it, one, hey, you trusted your guys to put it on. Two, man, they did a great job. I mean, it was just it was Christian Rose, Connor Hopkins. It just those guys went for it, man, and it was fun. It was exciting. It had everything I wanted a match to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're right. So let's take these match by match and talk about them a little bit here. So the opening match on the show, the Dreamwave tag team titles were on the line. The new guys, Jake Bosch and Scott Stanley, taking on the longtime Dreamwave tag team champions, the Hype, Gage Noonan and Hunter Holdcraft. This match goes 15 minutes and 6 seconds. Um, the so what was I going to say? I see what I'm looking at my notes and I'm not. There's an early injury fake in the match, and the new guys completely trick the Hype, thinking that one of them is down, and at the same time, with the referee distracted, there's a low blow that allows the new guys to get some heat. And then it seems like for a while, well, there was a stipulation in the match that they could change the titles by count out or disqualification, and it seemed to me like the new guys were perfectly content letting the Hype get counted out.
Yeah, they were. It's just strange to see that because we're so used to that. You know, titles aren't going to change hands. So it was funny, not funny. It was different to see them kind of use that as an offensive maneuver to really just kind of keep the Hype out of the ring. Again, something cool, something different.
Yeah, no, and something else is cool, something different from this, which didn't work out the way I wanted it to, was this judge's decision rule. So at the end, Hunter Holdcraft has a German suplex with a bridge. The clock is counting down 3, 2, 1, and at the 2-second mark, the referee starts counting the pinfall and just misses getting that third hand down for the pin. But somehow they go to the judges, and the judges score it 2-1 in favor of the new guys. What the hell, man?
I'm calling collusion. Show me the scorecards. Somebody, we need to. Can we petition to get those released?
Yeah, how did they even score that? They were like, yeah, one judge scored it 10-9. How did you score it 10-9?
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was fun. The new guys, put on a hell of a match. Who's to say they didn't eke it out?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's going to set up another match here soon.
Oh, absolutely.
If they haven't already announced it.
This was my first time, seeing a lot of these guys on this show. I really like the Hype, 12 gauge, Gage Noonan. It is great. Hunter Holdcraft, that kid's a star. His look, he kind of reminds me of just physically looks like a young MJF to me.
Okay, yeah.
He's just kind of got that face, that kind of, face you want to punch kind of face, I'm better than you kind of face. But man, he's crisp. He looks great. He's got good size. Man, I'm expecting big things. I'm definitely adding him to my list of to watch.
Yeah.
He was great.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of the Hype. I'm certainly looking forward to that rematch. Next up, Masha Slamovich takes on Sierra, and I've already talked to you about this match. I'll let you talk about Sierra.
All I can say is, wow. First, I've seen Sierra. It will not be the last. That young lady is something to watch. Masha did Masha. I haven't seen Masha put on a bad match in so long. I don't know that she's capable of doing that anymore. She was great as always, but Sierra just kind of was one of those, my mind kind of, this girl can definitely go. Listen, I can't wait to see what she does next. She's got the personality, the skills, the go. She is, she's great. She's really, really good. I was so I enjoyed that match so much, and Sierra was a big part of why I enjoyed that so much. So yeah. I look forward to seeing her again.
Yeah, she's a professional, man. I really like her. I saw her out in Wisconsin recently against Lainey Luck at one of Rich's shows, and I was telling Rich on the show, it was obvious that she and Lainey had gone around a few times, right? Because the match was very crisp, very whatever. But he kind of made the point that Sierra's like that all the time. Sierra's just that good, and I can't disagree with him.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm ready for her to I'm ready to see her against some bigger names because I 100% think she can go. You could drop her into TNA right now. You could drop her into NXT right now, and she would be great to watch against anybody.
I absolutely agree. Next up, we had Channing Thomas with Sydney Bacabella in a short match against Sean Logan. Channing Thomas shows up with his good as gold briefcase, doesn't use it. And then Sydney Bacabella offers Sean Logan $20 to just quit and go away. That doesn't work. That's an old school trick, isn't it? Like some Godfather shit or whatever, right?
Hey, I tell you, it's hey, what's that adjust to for inflation? I mean, kid may have made a mistake.
He certainly did because he spent, let's see, the match went 6 minutes, 19 seconds. Sean Logan dominated probably 5 minutes and 19 seconds of it. And then Bacabella interference negates all of it. And Sean Logan goes down. Then Bacabella gets on the damn microphone and says, "There's no competition in Dreamwave," which brings out JC Castelli to announce quite a match for April 12th.
Hey, they found him a little competition, didn't they?
They sure as hell did. They sure as hell
that's
did.
a little step up. He Sean Logan gave him all he could handle. Let's see what this guy can do.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I can't put my name on the guy. I've heard of him before. I think.
Yeah.
He's been around. I think he's a few different places.
Yeah,
who was that again, Bob?
Yeah, he's bounced back. Nick Nemeth. I don't really recognize the name, but I feel like I've heard it somewhere. By the way,
yeah, that's whoo.
Yeah, by the way, Nick Nemeth is going to be at MCW in March, on March 22nd at Hollywood. So I am probably going to go to that.
We'll have to see what those days are. That might be one for me to make a drive.
I am all in, man. Let's do this because it's gonna be a fun show. Of course, my parents will be there, so you can confront my dad and fight him if you.
Yeah, it's not happening.
Still no. Okay. Next matchup, Joe Alonzo.
I got a better chance of confronting your mom.
You'd think. No. Next matchup, Joe Alonzo defeats Vic Capri by disqualification. Alonzo is a guy from NWA I've seen. I saw Joe Alonzo and Vic Capri on opposite sides of a mixed tag match out at RPW with Missa Kate as Joe Alonzo's partner and Ethan Matthews as Vic Capri's partner. And it was a very good match. But one thing I noticed from the match, realizing that I'd seen them wrestle before, is that these guys seemed really comfortable together, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a good match. Joe Alonzo definitely hit him with the old okey doke, to get the win. It's you can tell the guys are comfortable with each other. They look. Joe Alonzo looks great. He's got a great look. Vic Capri, I've seen him a few times. He's put together. I mean, he's been around for forever, and just it still looks great. The match, it was a fun match, just a great match.
It was, man. And Joe Alonzo pulling the Eddie Guerrero trick and it actually working. That's the thing that's like, who has it worked for since Eddie did it? And like nobody. Everybody always gets thwarted, and this time it actually worked. Made me laugh my ass off. Also, I have to make a note that the other thing that made me laugh my ass off was the referee getting hit with the airplane spin feet. That shit, I don't know why, but that popped the hell out of me, man. Like that's old school as hell. So we move on. We got the Uprising Alternative title match. Rebecca J. Scott defeats Becca in 11 minutes and 4 seconds. I loved this match. I'm a huge fan of Rebecca J. Scott. And Becca is back from injury with a vengeance for sure. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was a great match. A lot of fun, a lot of back and forth. That finish was awesome. Mm-hmm. It was a power bomb. She reversed it into the submission choke. I've seen it. You've seen it. We've seen it. It's happened here and there. In other promotions. Every time I see it, it's just such an awesome reversal, and it kind of just comes out of nowhere. Like I said, I loved it. Popped for it big time.
Me too. For me, that reversal was giving Asuka vibes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I'm one of the biggest Asuka marks out there. So, that certainly caught my attention. But Rebecca J. Scott, she's not just the All Prize Alternative champion. She's champion Pro Wrestling Magic in New Jersey. She's all over the place with belts. I mean, I think she is she and Becca both actually I think are very close to the top of where they need to be.
Yeah, like I said, it was a great match. You could tell both of these ladies were on a different level. As far as the show, I mean, they were. It's hard to explain it. It's just you could tell that there was at no point did they not know what was coming. Did they not know to sell? Did they not know to pop everybody? It was just two professionals in there. It was just a great match. Two ladies that just absolutely blew my doors off. I mean, the match was so good.
Mm-hmm. And only went 11 minutes. That's what's crazy. I mean, they're getting these matches in, they're telling their stories in full. And like I said, like you said earlier, the whole production, the way they timed the show, it's just really well done.
Yeah, that's what I said. I didn't feel there was not one match on this card that I felt was lacking in anything as far as every match told the full story. I didn't feel like, man, I really kind of wish they'd have done this, or if they had just paused here. It and again, that's from the promoter down to the talent. I mean, that's a show that's just everything is working. I mean, it was just like I said, for a show that ran that long. I blinked and it was done. I was like, oh man, I got to go find something else to watch now. This was such a good time.
Yeah, it really was. Let's see. Next up, we got the Dream of Alternative title match, the Fatal Four Way. Marcus Mathers defeats Gringo Loco, Myron Reed, and Rafael Quintero in 9 minutes and 19 seconds. This is another match that I absolutely loved. The four guys in this match and the spots that they pulled off, the seamless sort of, the Fatal Four Way always seems to be this rotating set of these two guys. Now it's these two guys. Now it's these two guys, and then two guys are outside the ring. But these four guys didn't just do that. They were doing these transitions between one-on-ones seamlessly and in the ring from move to move. I mean, when Gringo Loco came off the top rope with that cutter on Mathers after a flurry of one-on-one moves, I almost lost my shit.
Yeah, it was. I've got here in my notes, Spot Fest. The match was great. This is really the first I've seen an extended match of Marcus Mathers. Absolutely see why he's ID'd. That kid is great. Gringo Loco. I don't think I've ever seen a bad match. He looks like me coming off the couch to wrestle a great match. It doesn't look like it can happen, but man, he's great every time. Quintero looks the part. First I've really seen him, but he looks good. And man, I'd love to get your opinion on this. I love Myron Reed. I've always loved Myron Reed. Why do you think it is that he hasn't gotten over to a bigger degree?
I, you know, I think that in ring he's great. He's the kind of guy that I think I would have envisioned getting signed by AEW. And I say
Mm-hmm.
that in the sense that I guess I don't. The one thing and I'm just saying this. You just posed this question to me on the spot, and I'm thinking on the spot about it,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking to myself, does Myron Reed have a character that's fleshed out? Does he have something that, from a storyline, makes you want to find out more about Myron Reed? And that's the one thing.
Okay.
Like that's to
Agreed. Yeah.
me. You know what I mean? Like
Agreeable. You know what he reminds me of a lot of is early Santana. He was kind of a slender guy. He started to put on some size now. I mean, think about how big Santana's gotten now. I mean, Santana is, what do we want to call it? A full grown man.
mhm.
Myron Reed is really kind of starting to fill out, and but he hasn't lost any of that move set of being a smaller guy. And man, just like I said, he just gives me the Santana vibes, the AR Fox vibes. That just the things he can do are amazing.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fingers crossed. I'm hoping for a lot more for that guy.
Yeah, me too. And it's funny the way you were laying that out. It reminded me of Will Ospreay in the sense that Will Ospreay was a
Yep.
skinny kid who could do all the moves, and then Will Ospreay went away and got
Mhm.
very big. And when Will Ospreay got
Yes, he
very
did.
big and he adjusted his move set to be a little less spot festy and a little more using the spots to help tell the story, along with the size that he put on, those two things happening at the same time to me leveled him all the way to the top. They made him an international
Absolutely.
superstar. It doesn't matter what promotion he goes to. And you're right, Myron Reed could put on some muscle.
Yep.
But at the same time,
Yep.
another guy who kind of was shaped like him, who has been also putting on muscle, that Myron Reed reminded me of in this match was Montez Ford. I mean, the way he comes off the top rope with that spot. I mean, Montez Ford used to scare me coming off with that big splash. He'd fly 6 feet in the air, and then he'd come down with his little skinny body, and I'd be afraid he was going to break. But now he doesn't look like that.
No, he's. I think Montez Ford at some point here in the near future is going to be right at the top of the card. He's got way too much. One, he's got way too much in-ring skill, too much athleticism. But the thing he's got that some of the guys never quite get is he's got that personality, man. He's got the skills on the mic. He is, for whatever reason, kind of been held back with the tag team stuff, and that's held back. Their Street Profits have been at the top for a long time now. But man, I can see him going single and being one of the biggest stars they've got. He's clean cut. He's good looking. They say the jumping out of the arena athleticism, but he literally can jump out of the arena.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody that gets so high. And like you said, it's almost high to the point of scary. And it wasn't so much that, hurt the guy he's going to hit with the splash. I was afraid he's going to hurt himself. He's going to collapse a lung. He's going to blow a liver. He's going to do something.
Yep.
But gosh darn, he is amazing.
He really is. And I tell you the one thing, like I said, I don't want to talk too much WWE today, but I do want to mention about Montez Ford is that if you were talking about how he's a good looking guy, he's got a good moveset. He also dresses so sharp. And the reason I'm mentioning that, if you take a photograph of the Street Profits in the ring as tag team champions with the belts over their shoulders and Montez Ford dressed the way he dresses when he's a champion, and you cut Angelo out of the photograph and you just look at the photograph of Montez dressed like that holding a championship belt, that man looks like your world champion.
Oh, absolutely. And I hate you and I, and we've done this obviously years and years and years and years and years of talking about this kind of stuff. You can't help but look at a tag team and go, okay, who's Sean? Who's Marty? No, that's not a knock on anybody that's the Marty. I think, there's a place for all those guys. But man, he is, it's so clear that he's a star that it's just a matter of time.
It really is. It really is. Let's see what else we got from this DreamWave show. So the next up, we had a triple threat. J-Rod defeats Blair Onyx and Missa Kate in 6 minutes, 49 seconds. This match starts out as J-Rod versus Blair Onyx, but Missa Kate inserts herself into the match because her original opponent for that night, Kylie Ray, got ID'd and pulled from the show, just like Zeta Steele did from the main event. And Megan Bain also became All Elite, which she got pulled from the show. So there's a lot of moving parts here. But I thought Missa Kate did a great job of last minute inserting herself into the match. They made it a triple threat, and I think they accomplished everything in 6 minutes that they needed to. I thought it was a fun match.
Yeah, absolutely. Missa Kate, her whole role in that match was to be an irritant, and she plays that so great. As far as Blair Onyx and J-Rod, first I've seen both of them. You and I talked, outside of the podcast here about my thoughts on J-Rod, another one. Wow. She, her and Sierra just kind of really just for the whole show just jumped out at me as I'm going to be seeing them on a bigger stage soon. Just great. Yeah. It was a great match. And like you said, 6 minutes, told a whole story. It did everything it needed to do. It for, like you said, for something where Kaylee Ray had to be pulled last minute, man, they did a great job of going on the fly. They really did.
Yeah, no, I absolutely 100% agree with you. And Blair Onyx is one. She didn't get showcased as much as the other two in the match, but I like her gimmick too, the spider lady thing. She does those weird back bends to avoid clotheslines and stuff too. She'll walk on her hands backwards like Bray Wyatt used to. Very kind of spooky gimmick with her own sort of touch. I've just recently been turned on to Blair Onyx, and so I've only seen her wrestle maybe 3 times in the last month, but that's all I've seen. But I've been super impressed with her. Like you said, Missa Kate is just great. And J-Rod will actually be at Rich's next show. We'll talk to him about that in a little while. J-Rod is going to be taking on Maggie Lee at Homecoming. So J-Rod, Maggie Lee is going to be incredible.
That's going to be fire. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, it really is. And I think J-Rod is the OVW Women's Champion right now. So she's getting around. She was at Shine on Sunday night. I was watching Shine 81. And honestly, I don't remember who she wrestled because she was just so damn impressive. But Casey Lennox was on that show as well. But it was a great show. She's just really impressive. J-Rod's another one. I guess the point I'm getting to is I've just recently been turned on to her as well. And when she walks out of the curtain and she flexes those muscles, she's so tall and like broad. Like I'm making motions here with my hands that John can see, but like she's just tall and strong and big. And like, honestly, from behind, if she flexes his muscles, she looks almost like Edge flexing his muscles from behind in like 2005 or something.
For lack of better description, she looks like a wrestler. She looks like, when I envision a wrestler, J-Rod is what I'm thinking.
No doubt.
And that's a good thing. I mean, it's you so much more see, somebody that looks the part that has a little trouble, in the ring. Man, she looks the part. She can go. Wow. Yeah. I'm excited. Like I said, I've got a list. You've kind of got me with this list of these newbies to watch that, I'm trying to get back into this independent scene. And, the list, it's not getting any shorter, Bob. So
no, it doesn't get
There
shorter.
is so much great talent out there. It is great.
It's crazy. And a lot of them are right in front of your face at promotions like GCW or whatever that you see frequently. But then we're going to talk about a Millennium Pro show here in a little while. And there's some future stars in a little room in California on a Sunday night at Millennium. And they impressed us as well. They're all over the place, I guess, is your point. And there's so many of them. And there's a lot of really impressive people that we get to see on a daily basis. It's hard to remember all their names sometimes. Yeah, match after that I didn't have a whole lot on. Bruce Hamilton defeats Jay Fowler in 5 minutes 57 seconds on Powder in the Eyes from Zeke Zishi on the outside. What'd you think of this one?
Yeah, it was a fun, quick little match. Man, Bruce Hamilton, he gave me Scott Norton vibes. He's just this big barrel-chested bruiser. Just, I had to look him up. He's about an inch shorter than Scott Norton was. He's about 10 pounds heavier. So he's a big hoss, as they would say. And who doesn't love just a big hoss? So, it's he's again, there's another one on my list. I would love to see him against some of these other guys. Who doesn't want to see, him against a Marcus Mathers type, the quick, fast, guys, that can move around and work around a big guy. Dude, I could see some magic matches with a guy like this.
Oh, no, I agree with you. Here's the only thing, and I hope I described this correctly, but the one thing that stood out to me about this match was that Zeke Zishi on the outside with the powder in the eyes, looking at these two men and their characters and their size and their whatever, Zeke Zishi seems like he should have been paired with Jay Fowler. Like, Bruce Hamilton is the big, strong hoss that you need the powder in the eyes to defeat, right? And Jay Fowler's a smaller guy. Like, and again, this is just me, in my own head doing booking, right? But it just felt like Zishi with Jay Fowler diffusing this big hoss with the powder would have made more sense. Obviously, it's not the storyline they're telling, but that's the only little nitpicky thing.
I mean, make more sense, maybe, but it's fun to see when a big guy that can kick your butt is like, hey, I can kick your butt, but you know what? Here's some powder to your eyeballs. You know what I mean? Come on. Work smarter, Bob, not harder.
Yeah. Fair enough, right? Oh, geez, man. That's a fact. Let's see. So next up, really great match. DREAMWAVE women's title match. Maggie Lee defeats Brittany Brooks in 14 minutes and 44 seconds. As we talked about earlier, this match was a fatal four-way with Zeta Steele and Megan Bain, but they got pulled for bigger and better things. So Maggie Lee and Brittany Brooks, I have to imagine, had to adjust this one on the fly and figure out how to make this match something special, and it was.
Yeah, it was a great match. A lot of back and forth. Brittany Brooks impressed me. Maggie Lee kind of knew what I was going to get from. Brittany Brooks is a little more new to me. Yeah, she should absolutely be in there and up in that level of ladies. It was great. The end of the match was awesome. You had a little bit of talkie after the match that I'm sure we're going to get to, and man, it was whoo.
Absolutely.
Good.
The one thing I
So,
was going to say, or one thing I was going to point out first, the one thing I have a note to point out is, I don't know if you saw this in your research. Brittany Brooks is 20 years old. And she's
what?
20,
Really?
20.
I did not get that. That's the same age as my youngest.
Yeah,
Wow.
right.
That's
But
crazy. That
yeah,
is crazy.
and Maggie
I
Lee
had
is
no
23.
idea.
Maggie Lee's 23. Like, this is a
I knew
23-year-old
Yeah, I knew.
and a 20-year-old in the ring
Wow.
putting this match on
Wow,
together.
wow.
Like, we're going to be seeing both of them. Like, we're going to see this match again on TNA or AEW within the next 3 or 4 years. I got it right. Like,
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. Wow. I like I said, I knew Maggie Lee was young. Wow, I had no idea Brittany Brooks was 20. My goodness. If we're doing this at 20, knock on wood that there's no, injuries, nothing, major, no knees, back, nothing like that. Yeah, we could absolutely be looking at a world champion for a major promotion. Absolutely.
no question with both of them. I was just really impressed when I went back and realized Brittany Brooks is 20, and I just thought back about her maturity in the ring. I don't know how to word it exactly, but like, there's this, she feels like a ring veteran almost, the way she just sort of positions herself. She seems to always be in the right spot. She has her character figured out. Like, she doesn't look uncomfortable at all, like a 20-year-old should in the ring.
Well, you know what makes it even more impressive to me, finding out, like you said, 20. A lot of times, if you've got a young wrestler, at least to me, not being a wrestler myself, but it just seems that if you've got a young wrestler and they put on a really good match, it's generally with somebody that's a vet that's been around, that can call the spots, as they're going, kind of keep them in the right place, put them in the right spots. The fact that both of these ladies are so young, dude, that's makes it even more impressive to me that
Yeah.
that match was as fluid as it was, because it was a great match, especially like you said, one, being as young as they are, two, for having to kind of go, change it up on the fly, because that whole match got blown apart. So, for them to kind of put that together last minute and put on that great of a match, dude,
I
yeah,
absolutely agree. And
kudos, ladies, kudos.
yeah, and let me give kudos to Maggie Lee for hitting the Nigel McGuinness Tower of London. Boy, I was having some flashbacks, man. Boy, dropped Brittany on her
Oh,
head with the
Nigel.
Tower of London, man. I was losing it. I was watching it, and then I had to go back and pull up an old Nigel clip and watch him hit it because it was just so fun. But what you were talking about a
Oh,
minute ago was the post match. Maggie Lee retains.
yes.
Maggie Lee's walking to the locker room. She does a post match interview near the curtain in which she also talks about how she's beaten everybody and there's nobody that can take her. At which point, Masha Slamovich comes back out and makes the
Careful what you
challenge
ask for.
for April, Maggie Lee, and Masha. Holy shit.
That is going to be a great match.
Yeah. I want to get out to Chicago to see it live. Like, that's how great that match is going to be. So let's see. So we got 2 more matches left, and then we got Rich coming on here soon. So let me get through some of this stuff. Hot Commodity, Hayden Backlund and Trevor Outlaw defeat Jordan Cross and a mystery partner in 7 minutes, 29 seconds. One thing that stood out to me, Bobby Orlando comes out as the mystery partner, but he doesn't come out till the match is almost over, and then they lose.
Yeah, that was it. That one was a swerve for me. It was a handicap match most of the match. Jordan Cross kind of got handed to him most of the match, and then you figure, what do we know? We know the guy's going to come out. We know somebody's going to come save you, and then you guys are going to win. But that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this whole card, it had swerves the whole night. It was great.
Swerves, bro.
If you got guys like us that have watched as much as we watched and we can still get swerved, man, you're doing something right, because it was fun.
Facts. And they even swerved me again because after the match is over, Bobby Orlando helps Jordan Cross to his feet. He's got his arm wrapped around him like he's going to help him back to the locker room. And I'm having visions at that moment of Paul Orndorff turning on Hulk Hogan doing the exact same thing in 1986. But that doesn't happen either. Like I thought, okay, we set up the loss so we could set up the heel turn, but then that doesn't happen.
Hey, man. I love it. Love it.
Last match, we talked about a lot of it earlier. But DreamWave World Title dog collar match. Connor Hopkins defeats Christian Rose in 24 minutes and 11 seconds. My question to you, the one thing we didn't talk about is when did they stop touching corners on dog collar matches? Or is that just Russian chain matches?
You know, I couldn't tell you. You know, it's been in most of them I've seen. But listen, I'm not knocking anything with this match. You know,
No,
it was just two guys that just wanted to beat the crap out of each other. So, hey, man, let them beat the crap out of each other. I don't need any of that, you know, touching the corners, and just give me a good old beat them up. I mean, you know, both guys busted open. It was great. It was just an old school rough and tumble. You know, just it gave me old WCCW, NWA. You know, it just the old feels. It was great.
Oh, it totally did. I want to talk about two spots. I want to talk about Christian Rose wrapping the chain around Connor's head and then setting him over the guardrail and then using the chain to choke him with the leverage on the guardrail. That shit was brutal and it was awesome. And then later, Rose puts the Boston Crab on Hopkins, puts the chair on top of Hopkins, holding the Boston Crab, and sits down in it. Awesome. Absolutely awesome spot.
That to me, when he sat, you know, and completely sat in the chair, was just, brutal. I was like, man, somebody's going to need an adjustment after this. I tell you.
Yeah. And of course, both of them just crimson masks, both of them at that point. It was fantastic. And now, after Christian Rose loses, he gets on the mic and says, I want another shot. Let's do it in a steel cage. Sign me up.
Hey, I'm in. That's another one, you know, wherever it's going on, you know, you and I might need to make a trip because that'd be one to watch because those two guys are magic.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. And it was such a great show. I enjoyed watching it a second time today. That's how good this show was. So let's see. Before Rich comes on, I want to get some other business done. Let's do our and new champions. Oh, there was something we were going to talk about. There was a DreamWave posted something on Instagram. They followed it up today with another post for a class in July. But it looks like DreamWave is going to open a wrestling school. Inaugural classes in July. Pre-registration is open. It says designed to cultivate the next generation of professional wrestling talent. I didn't find much more about it than that. Did you?
No, I didn't see much more about it. But hey, man, if that last show that we watched and we just covered is any indication, yeah, I'm all for it. I would love to, you know, get some information as to who they're going to have for trainers. You know, they're going to keep the classes small from what I see. You know, 15, students. I think it's perfect. I can't wait to see, you know, who they start churning out.
Yeah, me too. I did see something. I thought I saw a post that had Shaza McKenzie and Gringo Loco pictured, but I don't know. I didn't see for sure that was them announcing them as the instructors. But if it is Shaza McKenzie and Gringo Loco,
you could do a lot worse. I mean, those are two people that, you know, if I'm wanting to learn, they've got a wealth to teach, man. That can't go wrong. Not with those two.
Absolutely. So for our and new champions this week, there's not too many of them from the weekend, but some pretty good ones. Starting at Death Proof Fight Club, Robin Alexis Grace won the Youngblood title in a triple threat against Joshua Sin and Bruce Thunderstein. At Coastal, and this is sad for me, but at Coastal Championship Wrestling, one of Indy Wrestling Experience's favorites, Ozzy Killmeister, lost the Cruiserweight title to Elliot Crow. We here are hoping that this moves Ozzy on to bigger and better things, like maybe the Southeastern title, or even Meadow and the World title. But at the same time over the weekend, but at a different show. So Coastal Championship Wrestling ran 2 shows this past weekend. The one in Tennessee, Dylan McQueen defeated Cha Cha Charlie to become the Tennessee champion. Dylan's a guy I saw at Enjoy in a mixed tag team match, and just really liked. I really like Dylan's vibe. Like, I think it's just a really he's that's another performer that's on the come up. At Wrestling Evolution, Justin Kindred Allen won the Legacy title from Mason Allen. Wrestle Rave, Dmitry Alexandrov won the deathmatch title in a triple threat versus Xavier Black and Sampson. Lovely Miss Larkin won the Immortal Championship at Bullpen Pro Wrestling this weekend, defeating Emily Locke to become the inaugural champion. And at the same time, on the same show, Zaya Brookside, who we mentioned earlier, won the women's title in a match against Dream Girl Ellie. At Spartan Pro Wrestling, Rico Bravo reclaimed his middleweight championship in a fatal 5-way match. I believe it looked to me like he had to vacate it before, and he came back and won it. But either way, congratulations to Rico. At Destiny Wrestling, a guy we've talked about before, Donovan Dijak became the Destiny World Champion, defeating Trent Seven. And I know you've seen Donovan Dijak, but how into the loop are you on Trent Seven?
I haven't seen too much of Trent Seven, since his last run. He Mustache Mountain, was about the last I watched too much Trent Seven. I've always enjoyed Trent Seven. He's got a great gimmick.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he looks like, I love the guys that look like, remind me of me. Got the big burly man build. And come on, that mustache is glorious.
It really is, man. I'm a big Trent Seven guy too, man. And that's where I saw him too. NXT UK, and then the Mustache Mountain run was so much fun. Let's see. A few more. Mustang Mike became the AIWF World Champion this weekend, defeating Tyler B. Jordan. At Below Zero, 2 new champions were crowned. Tommy Lee Curtis won the world title from Brandon Nitro. And Chad Poutine won the 701 championship in a multi-man battle royal. It was a no DQ battle royal. Mason Mayhem was the previous champion. Chad Poutine leaves the new champion. Also at Below Zero, Royal Flava, who I've talked about before. I've seen them in Wisconsin with Rich. They are a tag team on the up and coming, on the come up. They won the tag team titles from the Crucible. And I already covered Zaya. So that's the list. Those are our new champions for the week. And congratulations to all of them. Long may they reign. Except for the ones we mentioned earlier, the new guys. I hope they don't reign long at all, and the Hype get their titles back. And Ozzy too. I don't want Ozzy. I want Ozzy to get his belt back. So, Elliot Crow, take a hike. Let's see. So before we bring on Rich, we've got our YouTube recommendation for the week, and we're going to go through this fairly quickly. Just we're not going to give you any spoilers on this, but John and I both watched this show this weekend. Millennium Pro Wrestling Love Drunk was posted, I believe, on Friday on Millennium Pro Wrestling's YouTube. The matches involved, first off, Miggy Rose taking on Koto Hiro. They said Miggy Rose is the former MPW champion, but Koto Hiro impressed me. What'd you think of him?
Yeah, Koto's got a lot of good moves. Miggy Rose impressed me. That's the first I've seen either one of these gentlemen. It was a great match. Not much more to say other than a great match. Told a great story.
Good opener. Yeah. I was surprised when I found out they put the former champion in the opening match, but like I said, those two guys really kicked off the show very well.
It set a great tone. It really did. If you're gonna put a former champ out there, make it a good match, set the tone. Like I said, the show, really kind of followed suit. So,
absolutely, I agree with you on that point for sure. Going back to my thing here. So then the next match, Antonio Rivers versus Maximilian Montclair. The only note I have from this match is that it was Maximilian Montclair's birthday.
Hey, and Maximilian is a big boy. We'll leave it at that.
That's true. He is.
He is a large gentleman. Again, another great match. It was told a great story. Everything's kind of got this, Valentine's Day theme running through it. It was neat. It really was a fun little show.
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, Cody Prince takes on someone that you and I both talked about before we started the podcast that we are very impressed with and want to see more of in Hydie. The thing I noticed about Hydie we
Yes.
talked about was there's pieces of it's a creepy gimmick. There's some Mankind pieces. There's an Abyss piece. There's Bray Wyatt pieces. And then she's wearing a suit and looks like low key in TNA in 2016. Man, I loved every second of this. What did you think?
Yeah, right from the beginning with the creepy black drool,
Oh,
coming
right.
out, and just, she's got a very, I don't know, it's like a Phantom of the Opera thing. It's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. It's just this weird mashup of all these pieces, but it works so well. And I think that's due to her being able to pull that off, and make it cohesive. Yeah, she's great. I can't wait to see more.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm very interested in her, very interested in this gimmick. I followed her on social as soon as I got done watching the show. I really am. I think she's someone that we're going to see more of in short order. Next up, we had Jeremiah Fresh taking on Diego Valens. Diego Valens is another former MPW champion. But to me, the most interesting part of this match, maybe I'm just dissing the guys in it, but the most interesting part of this match was Hydie getting involved with Jeremiah Fresh after the fact.
My man looked a little uncomfortable. Hydie. I think Hydie might have found herself a man.
Hey,
She's definitely interested. Valentine's Day. I mean, let's
love it.
make a match.
I loved everything about it, man.
Jeremiah. Might be the reluctant suitor, but Heidi doesn't strike me as the take no for an answer girl.
Yep. Absolutely. Oh, I loved every second of it. So then we had two more matches to go. El Primogenio taking on Nina in an intergender match. I actually was really impressed with Nina. I like the Hurricane Ranas and the high flying stuff that she did. And then so at one point during this match, like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything that happened for anybody, but Primogenio at one point hits an old school Steiner recliner, doesn't he?
He absolutely does. I was saying that this is one of the better intergender matches that I've seen in a while. These two did. I love it when, if you're going to do it, do it. Nothing was held back on either side. Nina gave just as good as she got, and it was just a fun match.
Absolutely. And then finally, main event champion versus champion, J2 Mattioli versus Danny Devine. I thought it was a great main event. I mean, you knew the belts probably weren't going to switch, but I probably shouldn't have spoiled that for everybody. But
No,
but the belts probably aren't going to switch, but
it's
you enjoy seeing your two best guys.
right, and it was clear to me that these were the two best guys for a reason. They looked the part, they wrestled the part. Definitely the most cohesive match for the whole show. The smoothest match for the whole show. I'd love to see these guys again.
Yeah, me too. Everybody, definitely, if you get a chance, the YouTube recommendation, Millennium Pro Wrestling, Love Drunk. Show runs like an hour and 23 minutes. You can watch it on your lunch break. I mean, it's you can squeeze it in and you'll enjoy it. I promise you'll enjoy it. Next up, we are going to bring on Rich Buchholtz here in a second, I think. Hey, and there he is. Rich Buchholtz, the owner and promoter of Ragin Pro Wrestling in Wisconsin, a regular contributor on this show. We always love having Rich here. Rich, welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me.
So last week I did a show and we had some snow out here, which I know you're not impressed with, but out here in Maryland, it's a big deal that we had a snowstorm that shut us down for a couple of days, threw everything into flux. But two of the topics that I wanted to talk about last week that I put off for this week when I could have you and Jon in the same place. The first topic is Hollywood Haley J. And I saw that recently she decided to leave OVW and go to Texas to train at Booker T's school at Reality of Wrestling. And I guess, Rich, you and I have been on this show. We've been talking WWE ID, and it's clear that it's a worm in my brain because it's all I seem to talk about or bring things back to. But my first thought on this was we've got top tier, like you, Rich. You've talked on my show before how you like to think of yourself as the AAA. Like Hollywood Haley J is clearly a AAA talent. She's ready for the big leagues,
Oh,
and she's jumping to Booker T. Is that to get the attention of WWE ID? Is it just a coincidence and it's to polish up some skills? That's what she said in her post, that it was to polish up some skills, learn a new hold, and get better. But I feel like WWE ID has got to be involved in this. I don't know how much you know Haley J, but just from a theoretical standpoint, what do you think?
I definitely think that she's trying to evolve in the WWE mindset. WWE will train her differently than what she'll get at OVW because nowadays it's not the developmental for WWE. With Booker T being part of the new LFG show, that'll help her as well.
No, and I agree, and it's definitely going to be great for her. And I think that a lot of talent like her may start to follow suit. John, did you see this story? And where were you on Haley J?
Yeah, I saw the story as well. You and I had talked about it. One of the things that kind of stuck out for me, we had talked about, and Rich, you just mentioned about, learning the WWE kind of style. Haley J is somebody that's on record. I've read posts and things from her where she wants to be an entertainer, and I think, if you want to be a sports entertainer, this is the route that you want to go. You're going to get the correct teaching with the correct style and everything else. So if that's, Bob, you and I talked about it a week or so ago. If that's your mindset, that's what you want to be, then this is where you want to go. If you want to be an independent wrestler, maybe you take a different avenue. Hey, if the door's open and the opportunity's there, and that's your dream, then hey, more power to you. I don't begrudge anybody going after what they want.
No, me either. My worry is, and Rich, I'm interested in your thoughts on this too. We've kind of talked about it already, Rich, you and I, and then me and John have talked about it. But the log jam, before you and I were talking about, would there be a log jam of just in general people trying to get into these WWE ID schools? But this has made me think of the transfer portal, or like, is Hollywood Haley J essentially going to ROW to win a national championship and then move on to the big time? You know what I mean? Like, is this more just log jamming, you think?
I would say it is to a degree. It depends on how many women they have at his school. Like, I don't know who's all at his school. So, like, that's the biggest thing. Like, we get people that reach out to us from his school quite a bit, but I couldn't tell you who is and who isn't. Like, I mean, Haley's worked for me twice. She did tell me she was moving to Texas a couple weeks ago, but that was the first I heard about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess I'm just thinking of, are we going to have waiting lists at these schools? Top tier talent stuck on waiting lists and things like that. I mean, I don't want to see that for them either. But like you said, I don't know how big the school is, and I don't know if they're going to expand.
I think a lot of it comes down to sponsorships, if they expand or not. Because, like, I mean, it takes a lot of money to run schools and all that stuff. So
That's interesting. You
I
don't
think if they
think?
can,
God, I mean, to interrupt you, but you don't. You're the inside knowledge here. I would have always thought that the money you make running a wrestling school with the tuitions and everything would self perpetuate you to be able to grow. You're saying that's not the case, or you don't think it's the case?
it's not. I don't think it's a case because you got to figure heat, water, electrical, all that stuff isn't included in all that other stuff. Like, he's getting money for the training, but like it takes a lot of money to keep the building running.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, the overhead's not figured in, the actual business overhead.
Correct.
Got it.
Yeah. And so I'm interested in this, in seeing how that develops. The other thing, one thing that John and I were talking about earlier was, Rich, did you see DreamWave is opening their school now?
I did. I don't know who runs it though, but I did see that they're opening a school. I believe it's in, is it May or June?
I think it's July actually is the
Sound right?
opening class. Yeah.
July. Okay.
And John and I were talking about this a minute ago about how they haven't really posted a lot of the details. Like you said, you don't know who's going to be teaching, but there was a post earlier from them that had the school logo on it, and it had Shaza McKenzie and Gringo Loco. I don't know if that means they're the teachers or if they are just showcasing two of their better talent, because those are two great people to showcase. But Shaza and Gringo Loco would be two good candidates, wouldn't they?
They would be. Shaza, I think, is out of St. Louis, so that's why it'd be a little shocking. Because isn't Dreamwave out of LaSalle, Illinois?
Yes.
Yep.
So I think that's a couple hours away, isn't it?
Yeah, you know more about the Midwest geography than I do. I think so.
I'm pretty sure. Like, when I think of Illinois, I always think Chicago, and like Chicago is only 3.5 hours from me, but like St. Louis is like 7 hours from me.
Yeah.
And pretty sure that Shaza lives in St. Louis. I don't know where Gringo Loco lives. I believe Chicago, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, all the shows I see Gringo on seem to be centered out in that region, but I like I said, I don't know either where he's at. But it's funny because you and I talked about Rich. You talked about Gringo a few weeks ago, and I hadn't really seen much of him. And now in the last couple of weeks, I've seen like 3 of his matches, and man, he's just great.
He is. He's a very good heel.
Yeah, he works the crowd. He just constantly works the crowd as a heel, trying to generate heat. It's people could take a lesson from it, I think.
Oh,
And then
100%. Like nowadays, it's hard to. There's matches where I don't even know who the heel and the face are when I watch stuff on TV.
yeah, no, I totally get that. And we were just talking about watching Gringo at a Dreamwave Fatal 4-Way with Marcus Mathers, Myron Reed, and Rafael Quintero, and Gringo was just nuts. It was just right, John. I mean, that Gringo was off the hook, man. I mean, he almost hit his head on the ceiling too.
Yeah, he was amazing. He he was running with those younger guys for sure. I mean, he hasn't lost much. He's just, it's amazing to watch him. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and
I actually got to see him at AEW when I was there first, just watching a show. I got to see him face Vico. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Oh, cool.
So
that's awesome. The only other thing I wanted to touch on real quick and just get you guys' opinion on was that WWE announced a couple of weeks ago that they are going to be reviving Evolve. Evolve is back. It is going to be a weekly show on Tubi, which is a free streaming app with commercials, starting March 5th, which is a Wednesday, opposite AEW Dynamite. I'm not sure. I still don't know if this is WWE ID Talent's show or not. I'm not sure how that's going to work, or if it's going to just be some other kind of developmental that's below NXT. I don't really know, but I thought it was very interesting that the first thing they did was position it opposite Dynamite.
they are doing everything possible to go head to head with them as much as they can.
Yeah.
Like all you got to do is look at the July pay-per-view is literally the same day as their biggest main event is the same day.
Right.
Is the biggest pay-per-view of the year.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't know how big Evolve on Tubi is going to be. John, are you a Tubi guy?
I watched some things on there, not a lot. I 100% agree with you and Rich that you're positioning it, in direct competition. But with AEW's move to Max, I just think that's in so many more households than Tubi. Even though Tubi's a free app, it just still doesn't seem like the platform to really springboard you ahead. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that they can't get viewers that they wouldn't otherwise get, but I don't know that Tubi is your end all be all. I don't know that that's a whole lot better than maybe just the CW app or like a little regional app to put it on. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do. If they get traction on Tubi, that could be bad news for AEW.
Bad news for
if
everybody.
they can pull numbers, if they can pull numbers on Tubi, then they can pull numbers anywhere.
Yeah, agreed. And Evolve. Oh, go ahead, Rich.
I was gonna say I agree 100% because I've never watched anything on Tubi, but like if you can pull it just off of an app when you're competing with cable TV, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I look, for my personal opinion, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I go to apps to avoid commercials. So I'm not going to Tubi to, I mean, like my initial gut reaction, I'm interested what you guys think, but my initial gut reaction is I'm less inclined to watch this show than I would be inclined to watch a tiny independent show on IWTV from a bingo hall or a gym or a wherever else because I don't have to sit through commercials. Does that factor in with you guys?
It depends on the matches and how they build them for me.
Really?
Yeah, I'm with Rich on that one. If it's built correctly, I think the commercials can be tolerable, but we'll have to see. Have to see how it's going to be presented.
Yeah. Yeah, it could just be me and my ADHD. Maybe that's why I can't sit through that stuff.
What?
Halfway through a commercial break, I
No.
see a squirrel and I'm gone. Uh, so, Rich, we brought you on. I've been so interested to bring you on. So, this is it's an interesting evolution, right? So, Rich and I talked a couple of weeks ago because I had seen a post that Brutal Bob Evans had posted. And it said Bob Evans' list of professionalism for wrestlers, and it had 34 points on there for things that I was very interested in and wanted to get Rich's opinion on. And after the last show, I talked to Rich. I said, next time we're going to do this. Well, in the meantime, Rich made two very interesting posts about his company that I think are tangential to the Bob Evans list. So I kind of want to start there and work my way backwards. Uh, Rich, the first post I'm talking about is from 4 days ago, where you were talking about positive vibes for working for RPW and negatives for working for RPW. And I guess I kind of wanted to know where did that come from? Where was your mind? What made you want to post this?
So like we post stuff sometimes just because we get people that hit us up constantly to try and get booked. And I want people to have the cheat sheet of this is a way to get in a lot better. It's not about who you know necessarily. It's about how you interact and how you pretty much want to be there. Like we don't want to just be a company that you're a one and done check mark. We want to be a company where people want to be there.
Yeah, I know. I agree 100%. Some of these things that you listed, we've talked about before, and they're definitely, in my opinion, reasons that somebody would want to work there. You're getting advanced pay, weeks ahead, hotel for anything over 4.5 hours away, um, and not required to be available for every RPW event. Those are three things that we've sort of talked about and stood out before. But you only run 5 shows a year. You can't expect these guys to be, uh, available at a moment's notice for you. But it's cool that you recognize that and put it back out.
Well, we hear a lot of people that'll say they have to be available for whatever promotion. I'm like, you don't have to be available for us for every show. It's a matter of if you're available, wonderful, we'll try and get you in. If you're not, okay, then we'll have to just reroute it.
Right.
So like we don't worry, we don't do our championships storylines based on you're not available for 3 shows, we can't use you.
Mhm.
We do it based on what's the draw at the moment.
Right. No, and I love that. I love that concept. One of the things that caught me uh, was just interesting to me was that you made a note about safety checks, knowing you got home from an RPW show when driving a distance. And the reason I bring that up is interesting is because I thought it was really cool of you when I went out the first time that you wanted me to check in when I got home to make sure I got home safe. I don't know if this is the kind of thing, if all these promotions do safety checks like that, or if it's just you, but I'm a big fan of it.
I've never heard of it from anybody else, but like we live in Wisconsin, like there's weather issues, there's long drives, like people could fall asleep behind the wheel. There's a lot of different variables. Most of our people travel together, but not everybody does. So
Mhm.
like it's just a matter of I'm happy to see the 2:30 in the morning Instagram messages going, "Hey, we had a great time. We got home. Thanks again." That's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And John and I have been checking on each other like that for years when we go places and go home, right, John? I mean, it's just part of what we do.
Well,
I mean, and
it's part of what we do, and for you and I know it hits home a little bit, So,
Mhm.
it for us, and for me personally, I mean, we've got kids. Um, you put good out into the world, good comes back, and it's just that's just being a good person. So, more power to you, Rich. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree. And I
Thank you.
think, I think if you juxtapose that about what we sort of hear, I don't, I don't have any specific things to tell, but what we hear about wrestling promoters, especially independent wrestling promoters, is sort of a general thing. This really leapt off the page at me as something that I didn't expect. It leapt off the page at me when Rich checked on me when I left. It leaps off the page at me now, and then when he's checking on all of his people who have to drive. I think that's. We had Jessie McCumbers on last week, the owner of Route 33 Wrestling, and she was talking about changing the culture in wrestling to try to make improvements on the whole model because there are ways that people do things. They've done them for years and they just continue to perpetuate that instead of thinking about it and trying to change what they do. This is the kind of thing that I think she was talking about here, in that you're caring about the people that work for you. You want them to be safe. You want them to be okay. You want them to come back and work for you again. I don't think it's very usual, but I really like seeing this type of change in the culture. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, I agree. It's again, if you've got somebody that has your best interests at heart, why wouldn't you want to work for them? That's a place I want to be. It's a place I want to spend time. It's a place I want to put my energy into. Um, Again, Rich, it sounds like the things you're doing are very forward thinking and just in line with just being a good person, man. And I think that's why you're having the success you're having.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely try to just be real. Like as far as stuff goes, like we never want to treat our talent like a number. We always treat everybody like an individual. And like I grew up in the business, and I'm sure that that's gonna be brought up later on as far as like I was a referee, and when I came up, you didn't have what you have now. So it's totally different now than it was back then.
Yeah, and in fact, we'll skip ahead because you're bringing it up. But on the other post that you were talking about, I think you posted it yesterday or the day before, and you were referencing your time as Ragin Rich, and
Yep.
you posted that the one thing I said from day one was talent needs to be treated better than the situation I dealt with when I started over decades ago, where we were told we needed to attend the after party to get paid. 2 hours later, after I got my bill and paid it, instead of getting what I was promised, I was given a gift card that the sponsor gave the promotion by a worker for 25% of the amount that I was promised. I would also need to come back and use the gift card at a later time. Cool, great learning experience. That shit. I mean, I laughed, I chuckled at first, but that's insane, Rich. That actually happened to you.
Well, it definitely happened to me, and it happened to me in the winter time.
Ugh.
So like I had to drive up to the show, um, and yeah, it happened. And everyone views stuff differently than I do, but like for me, I'm a big believer in you tell people this is your booking fee, this is what we agree on, we're cool, great. They should expect nothing less. That's just how I view stuff. Like everything should
Well,
be
I mean,
word.
yeah, I was gonna say it comes down. I mean, just like when you were kids, the golden rule: treat others like you want to be treated. And again, I think that's why Rich is having the success he's having is that just treat people good. It's an easy concept. It's it creates loyalty, creates the want. Like you said, he's got a lot of guys and girls that come back. I can see why.
No, I 100% agree with you on that. And I mean, like we've all heard the term hot dog and a handshake. Um, you know, I would rather have a hot dog and a handshake than this stupid gift card. At least I get to eat the hot dog. Jesus.
Yeah, things definitely have changed a lot since then, but like yeah, back then, like a lot of promotions would be, we didn't make enough money, we'll get you next time.
Wow.
My attitude would be nowadays, if I ever had to worry about that as a talent, I'm not showing if I'm not going to get what I'm promised. That's my personal opinion.
Right. I mean, that makes sense, right? I mean, it's like John said, it's like some of these things are just they're just simple, right? They seem simple. Um, but I guess my follow up on this is that's the way you're saying things used to be. How much different generally as a culture is it now versus then? Like, is that hot dog and a handshake thing still prevalent but not as much, or is it pretty much gone?
I would say it's pretty much gone, but like I don't work with other promotions, so I can't speak with what they're promising people. But like I don't hear it anymore. But I definitely heard it back when I was starting.
Right.
I mean, I've done shows in Detroit where I drove, I think it's 8 hours from here, and referee matches and got $10.
Wow.
And I mean,
So
were you thankful for the exposure at that at that point? That seems to be the line
um,
I hear all the time. You should be thankful for the exposure.
we'll take a pass on that one.
Oh, fair enough. One of the other things in that first post that you listed off, things that are positives, things that you want. You said this is the stuff that talent should keep in mind if they want to work for RPW in the future and or keep their spots, which I thought was telling. But the five things you or a few things you got listed here: plugging the shows, selling tickets, following our social media, helping out at shows, positive vibes, staying till the end of the show, even if you aren't the last match, if you don't have a long drive somewhere, and getting there early so you're not in a rush. Now, getting there early so you're not in a rush, positive vibes, those things are, you know, those things kind of go without saying. But how important is it, Rich? First of all, let me start with plugging the shows. How important is it, let's say how important is it or how beneficial is it to you and or the talent when guys are out there cutting promos and sending them into you to post on social media the week or 2 weeks before the show, retweeting and plugging things on social media? How big a benefit is that to you?
The promos, I'm not sure it's as big as it could be, but like just resharing posts is huge because if you reshare it to the story, at least it shows that person.
Mm-hmm.
So like just say for example it's Maggie Lee. If she's sharing our stuff on her story, we can reshare it and it gives us more credibility or whoever the case may be.
Mm-hmm.
So like promos can be good, but if they are micromanaged or if they're just rushed, it doesn't really matter.
Right. Right. The guys sitting in their car outside the venue recording it kind of deal.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, not knocking any of those guys. I'm just saying is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah. Um, helping out at shows is the other thing you mentioned, and I'm just curious. So, from a promoter standpoint, if you got a guy who really wants to be booked on your show, the hypothetical guy, he wants to really be booked on your show, he's been reaching out to you. He shows up early to one of your shows. What what would you like to see someone like that do? What would you like to see him do without asking?
Help with the ring, help set up chairs, um, just pretty much do stuff without having to constantly go, what can I do next? What can I do next?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of stuff is very self-explanatory. Nowadays, you don't get it. Like as far as like a lot of talent just wants to show up and it's like a pretty much you're in a schoolroom class doing roll call. They're
Mm-hmm.
just going, I'm here. It's if you're not booked, what benefit are you?
Yeah. Um, what was I going to say about the? Oh goodness, goodness, goodness! There was something else about the social media, or the following your social media, and just having a social media presence in general. Is the size of someone's social media presence? Is that something that is important to you before you even know whether they're gonna retweet and post stuff on their stories? Is just the presence important?
It can be. It depends on what their content is. And like for us, we kind of watch some people's content. If you do a lot of negative posts, like I try and stay away from that.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone follows somebody for a reason. If they're following you and there's all negative feed, it's going to create a bad vibe at your event if you have that person on the event.
Right. I mean, like the kind of person that seems to be always in the middle of drama somewhere.
Correct.
Yeah. And one of the things that you mentioned on your red flags for not getting booked for RPW is showing up and trying to get booked without telling RPW ahead of time that you're coming. Again, like I said, I've never been trained in the wrestling business. John's never been trained in the wrestling business, but I guess in a general sense, I always thought to myself, if these guys are showing up and just offering to get off, if like a guy just shows up, he's not booked, and he's in there and he just jumps in and starts to help set up the ring or help set up chairs. Even if he didn't tell you he was coming, I would have thought that still would be like, oh, look, this guy's here busting his ass, setting up the ring. Are you saying that if you don't let me know you're coming, you're a pain in my ass, essentially?
No, because these people are trying to show up with other people after call. So like I'm saying people that show up at 4:30
Mm-hmm.
that are just showing up, trying to get booked. They're not helping with anything.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that's the part that's annoying. If they would actually come and help and set up the ring, whatever, set up chairs, do something that's positive, no issue.
John, have you ever set up a wrestling ring? I'm
I
dying
have
to.
not. Does the WWE ring from the 80s count when you and I had the LJNs? Does that count? Because if it doesn't, then no, I have not.
Yep. No, absolutely. I'm dying to help set up one. But you're right. I mean, I hear that a lot though, right? John, I mean, you've heard that guys showing up at shows and just milling about and doing nothing, expecting to get paid or whatever. I think I heard an old story about Manny Fernandez just showing up somewhere one time and just being like, "Put me over. I got my gimmick in the trunk." And then strong arming his way into getting a table. Like that's. It seems like it's the Manny Fernandez approach.
Yeah, I can see why that would irritate you, Rich. If just like Rich said, if you're not bringing something positive, then you're not helping. You're not there for the reasons that Rich or another promoter would want you there.
Yeah. Rich, I want to ask you one more thing about this. It just popped into my head, which is you've been around the business a long time. You're closer to my age and John's age than some of these guys that are working for you. And
Mhm.
and I'm not a guy, I'm not the guy who's like, yelling at clouds, old man yelling at clouds, talking about these younger generations. That's not my thing. But is there a change in that attitude with respect to these guys who just show up to shows and they're not booked, they just show up, they don't help, they're not telling you about it? Has that changed? Is that a generational thing? Has this new generation become more inclined to that than say when you were refereeing 20 years ago?
Yes and no. It depends on the person. Like a lot of places won't say nothing, where I'll say something. And like there's promotions that don't like that I'll say something. It's like we beat to our own drum. We're kind of a trailblazer. There's going to be people that like us. There's going to be people that don't. It's one of those things I just accept. Um, it's one of those why people want to work for us is because we're not really hiding who we are. If you come in and work and want to be there, zero problem. But if you're just showing up expecting to get booked, and I probably don't know who you even are, it's probably not going to happen.
I was curious about something with respect to one of the other things on your list was that it would be a negative or a red flag if you try to go through someone else to try and get you booked for RPW. The only person to reach out to is Rich Buchholtz. Does that happen frequently that people go through third parties because they're afraid to ask or they're afraid to do whatever?
So a lot of people used to think that Mike ran the company and would go through Mike. So I just pretty much flat out told people, I'm the person that runs it. If you want to get booked for RPW, you got to go through me. Nobody's going to get you fired. Nobody's going to get you hired. It's
Right.
pretty much everything goes through me.
Yeah. Um, And in that same respect, I guess because I've been reaching out to people recently, podcast guests and things like that. I've reached out to promotions before, in an official capacity before I come out and visit. Rich and I have talked numerous times, and I guess my thought is, so we're sitting here talking about what the red flags are. What does Rich Buchholtz say as far as, if you want to get booked with RPW, here's what you do? Do you email? Do you message? Do you hate one or the other? Do you have a problem with grammar mistakes in those messages? Things like that. What should guys do and not do in that communication with you?
I'm cool with them direct messaging me. I'm cool with them emailing me. If they have my number, they can text me. I really don't have a rhyme or reason. Like, I'm a person that actually sleeps by my phone. So like, I get messages at 2 in the morning. I get messages at 11 a.m. when I'm at work. It's one of those things where I try very hard to get back to people as quick as possible. Most times we're going to tell them that we're very full because we book so far ahead that I don't want them to message me each show going, is there an opening? Is there an opening? Because there probably isn't. But if there is, I just tell them I'll get back to them and tell them that there's an opening for that show.
Right.
Like, we have 45 states that have reached out to us. I believe 5 or 6 countries of people that have reached out to try and work for RPW.
Wow.
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it?
It's amazing.
It really is. It really is. Like, I get so excited for what I mean, and the guys you bring in are just, and speaking of the guys you bring in, this wasn't on the run sheet because this just got posted. You and I talked about it yesterday, Rich, but you want to tell everybody about this, I was call it a contest, I guess, but the voting for the homecoming show.
Okay, so pretty much the voting is anyone that bought a ticket for our show, they get a vote of what's the reason they're coming to the show. And you get 1 vote per person. So like, I circle it based on if they have that ticket or whatever. So like, it's not like somebody can vote 10 times. Like, if they have 1 ticket to the show, they're only getting 1 vote. If they have 10 tickets, like, they can take their other people's votes, but then the other people can't vote.
Right.
So like, it's all counted. It's all very micromanaged.
Mm-hmm.
My office is my apartment. Pretty much everything. My wall looks kind of like a draft room on draft day for the NFL. Everything is very old school, paper, pen.
And what's the end game for this voting in this contest? What do these guys stand to gain from winning these votes?
Okay, so pretty much first place gets $60, second place gets $30, third place gets $10, and it's additional money. It's not their booking fee. Their booking fee was already covered, or they're getting it at the show already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a way to get them to want to plug the show even harder, because if there's more money involved and a chance to make more, why wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was
kind of a form of advertising. Well, I was just going to say, it's kind of our form of advanced advertising.
Yeah, and you also get to gauge. How am I going to put this diplomatically? You also get to gauge the interest and the ambitiousness, I guess, of the people working for you, right? I mean, you get to see. I mean, this is like real-time analytics, right? Watching who's over with your crowd and why are they over? Is it because they're promoting or because they're over? I mean, you're watching all this happen in real time, right?
100%. And the thing is, like, there's people that'll argue, oh, a heel isn't going to get votes. It's like, that's false. The person that's leading the votes, as I updated 2 hours ago, is Casey Lennox. Casey Lennox has been a heel the entire time she's been here. She's just very over with the crowd, but a lot of it's her social media presence and just how she interacts with the crowd after she's done wrestling.
Yeah, and Casey is great. And the one thing that sort of stood out to you that you mentioned to me or whatever is who's leading right now is really interesting. I mean, you got guys like Zilla, Maggie Lee, and Casey at the top. JDX is also at the top, but like a lot of your more successful people who are already more successful in the business seem to be leading these votes. And it's not just because of name recognition, it's because these guys are out there doing the work, right? That's how they got successful in the first place. And now they're showing everybody else behind them, this is how you're successful. Am I wrong about that?
You're 100% right. And like one of the main reasons we did it was I wanted to prove a point, because we'll get people that go, our families come to the shows. I'm like, okay, like show me, because if they do that, they should vote for you.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, then there's some analytic problem. Like either you think you're more popular than you thought you were, or whatever the case may be. So like we're trying to figure out who stands out. It's kind of like an indirect tournament as far as like competition. Who's people want to see at RPW more consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And like the reason we chose Wapaka was because it's the neutral playing field. Nobody on our show is from Wapaka.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually the closest person that grew up there. I grew up 10 miles from there.
Mm-hmm. Right. And are you going to run this all the way through May 30th? May 31st?
May 31st, yep.
No, I mean, you're going to run it through the day of the show. Like votes are going to be counted right up until bell time.
No, it's till 8 a.m. on May 31st.
Okay. All right. So everybody who's
So,
got
like,
tickets. Yeah.
that.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Oh, I was going to say, we did post that it'd be May 31st at 8 a.m. Because, like, we'll get people that'll order tickets the day of the show after that. And it's way too hard to get back to them while I'm trying to set up stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, like, if they want to vote, they got to order earlier.
Right. Well, I don't have a ticket. But if I did, I know who I would vote for. I'm not going to tell any of you, but I know who I would vote for. So my point in saying that is anybody who may be listening to this show who has a ticket, who hasn't already seen Rich's post about it, go vote. It's very important to Rich, and it's important to the folks that could win some extra, as Jim Ross likes to say, some extra cheese on their Whopper, right?
100%. And like the one thing we've noticed is that the wrestlers are definitely engaging in it. Like, I don't know how close you follow Instagram, but like you can see everybody that views your story.
Mm-hmm.
So like anytime a story is viewed, you can see who's viewing it. And there's a lot of people that follow our stuff very, very closely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
So I honestly don't care who wins. I want it to be fun. That's pretty much the reason we did it.
Yeah. Good. And I like it. And like I say, I think, like we talked about, I think you're going to learn a lot from it too. I think it's a really unique sort of way to accomplish a lot of things at once.
I would agree.
So let me move on to stuff that's actually in the notes here. And you and I talked a couple of weeks ago after we finished recording. Then I sent you over this Bob Evans list of professionalism stuff, and we talked about it being a good topic because there's just some really interesting stuff on here. Now, a few of these things, like John said a few times, a few of these things are just being a good person and being, having some sort of I'm looking for common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah. And so I'm not going to go over every single one of these, but my example would be the first one on Bob Evans' list: best to show up on time. If you're occasionally late, tell the promoter. Duh. But I will ask Rich real quick: is people being late not telling you? Is that common?
It's not very common. You'll get a couple that'll do it, but they usually find themselves not on every show by doing it that way.
Right. I'm going to toss this one to John because we've run into this problem a lot of times. But number 2 says, if a woman wrestler is nice to you, she's probably just being a nice person. She most likely doesn't want to be your girlfriend even for a night. Rich, agree, disagree? John, agree, disagree? And what do you guys think about that, about Bob Evans putting that on his list?
It's more common than you think as far as people assume stupidly.
Bob, you and I both have daughters now, so our views of this may have changed over the years. But yeah, I definitely agree. Just because somebody's being nice to you does not mean But again, I mean, in all seriousness, it's common sense stuff. It's, you know, it, unfortunately, it needs to be said for a reason. Just
Yeah.
like, Rich just said, it's more common than you think. I don't think that's just in a locker room setting or a promotion setting. I think that's in the world. It's, it's prevalent.
Yeah, seriously. And one thing, Rich, I was going to ask you was, and I'm not going to ask you to name names, clearly, but when you said earlier it happens more than you think, are you talking about between talent or with fans and talent or both?
Both.
Which one's worse?
Um, it probably depends on the talent,
No, I mean, which one's more
but
prevalent
like
right now?
as far as like
Is it more common
the
now for fans to be having these kind of issues with a woman performer, or is it more likely that, in your experience, or does it happen more often that it's performer on performer issues that crop up like this?
for us, we get more fan problems, but like my rule that I tell my talent is never post where you are until you're gone.
Mm-hmm.
So like, just say for example they're at Hotel X. Don't tell people you're at Hotel X until you've already left.
Mm-hmm.
If we're
That's smart.
if we're sitting at restaurant A, don't tell them that you're there. Tell them after you left.
Right. And that's smart too. And that's a lot of things I've been learning about. And again, like I said, I made the joke earlier about me and John as teenagers dealing with girls and whatever. But I mean, the fact of the matter is, this has been a learning process for all of us over the years as men, right? Like, and I'm still learning things. It is crazy to me, and I'm not going to get off on a tangent about this, but it was crazy to me when it finally cracked through my thick skull how many things women do on a daily basis just to make sure that they safely go from point A to point B. Like I learned about, my wife would take keys and she would have one of her keys through her fist so that the one key could get somebody if they need to, or carrying the mace or the chargers in their, or the stunners in their pocket or whatever. And then like seeing people on social media, like women friends of mine posting pictures of just the sign of the coffee place where they're at. And underneath it says coffee date, but it doesn't say with who. And that's because they want their friends to know where they're at in case something goes wrong. I never knew about any of this stuff before, but that falls in line with what you're telling people to do.
Pretty much. I mean, like my big thing is like I don't like people knowing my location, but I also you can use certain code words
Mm-hmm.
because it becomes if you tell people your location, you pretty much have to constantly kiss up to them. Otherwise, they could get mad at you and tell somebody your location.
Mm-hmm.
Does
That's
that make
actually a good
sense?
point. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. That's a good point.
Perfect sense.
Yeah. I want to skip down. Number 6 on this list is one that I wanted to ask you about. Don't lose the building. What does that mean to you, Rich? Because I think I know what he means, but I'm curious what you think.
Don't lose a building would be don't do anything that's going to damage the building. Don't break chairs. Don't throw somebody over the bar. Um, don't throw somebody through the ceiling. It's
Right.
it's
So, yeah, I mean, you want to make sure you can be invited back, correct?
correct.
No.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure there's been a lot of things that have happened. I'm sure talent has done a lot of things in venues that have lost the building now that I know what that means. Like I'm sure that
Hey,
used
we've all been there, Bob. I mean, you lost a building once, and you lost 10 years of WWE. So, you know, Bill made sure you lost the building.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I've lost several buildings, so I know how bad that can be. But yeah, no, I mean, you're right. That goes back to common sense, right? Um,
Yes.
don't, just don't screw up. Don't bite the hand that feeds you, Um, let's see. That one's simple. Number 8, don't be mad about losing, just lose the best way you can. So, okay, so we hear, John and I are wrestling fans, wrestling marks, and we're in the internet wrestling community, and we hear people all the time talking about, I don't want to do a job for this guy, or I don't want to do a job for that guy. But is that that narrative still out there? Is it still prevalent? Do people still get mad about being booked to lose?
It's not out as much as it used to be, but like a lot of it's based on if the if the talent level is doing a show that they don't want to be on, then it could be very prevalent. But I've always told people, is it better to swim in a bigger pond and be the less fish, or is it better to be the opposite? It just depends on how your outlook is further down the road.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Great analogy.
Bring an oversized towel to change under. They're $8 at Walmart. And the reason I mentioned that to you, Rich, normally I would probably skip over it, but at the last show we were at, it looked like you had behind the curtain was sort of the locker room. Everybody was changing there, and then up high I think the women were changing up high in that rafter balcony area or whatever. But neither one of those places were closed in. Is that something, and I know you know mostly about your locker room, but is it something where does Bob say this because men and women change together frequently in these scenarios? Or is Bob saying that because everybody who changes around everybody should just have a towel out of consideration?
We separate women's locker rooms from men's locker rooms. I'm very much about privacy, but I have seen it before where the women feel very awkward changing in front of the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So I've definitely been on shows where I've seen that.
Right. Is that something? And I'm asking you as a promoter. I'm not asking to read Bob Evans' mind, but do you think he puts that on there because he's talking about times when men and women are changing together, or do you think he's talking about in general, even men changing in front of men?
It's probably in general just like a common courtesy thing, but like a lot of stuff he puts out there, I see as very obvious, but he's very good at just being like, this is direct, figure it out.
Yeah. Let's see. Number 14, shake hands and all that. Don't interrupt conversations to win an invisible handshake collecting contest. So now the reason I'm highlighting this one is because you and I had a conversation about when I was out in Wisconsin and feeling on the border as a wrestling podcaster, feeling like, okay, am I in the business? Do I need to shake hands? Or am I not in the business? I'm a fan, leave these people alone. And we don't have to get into that discussion just yet. But as far as your performers, is shaking hands, making yourself known around the room, is that stuff still important? And is it as important as it used to be, say, 20 years ago?
I would say it's around. It's not as key as it used to be. There's people that'll come up to me and talk to me, and I've had people that work for RPW that had no idea who I was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because I don't advertise, look at me, look at me. I want people to work for RPW and I work for Rich Buchholtz.
Right. That makes sense. Let's see. G-rated unless told to be R-rated, then PG-13. I think that's probably common sense. Have matches that support the whole show. And again, like I said, a lot of these are common sense, but going back to what you and I have talked about, Rich, as far as, you told me before that you mostly just book who's going to win and you let them do whatever else they're going to do creatively for the most part. Is there, under that construct with you, is there a way for these guys can have matches that quote unquote support the whole show? And if so, how?
You can have it support the whole show. It's based on, there's going to be times where we put somebody as a babyface, somebody as a heel, and the crowd may flip on them. The best example I can give you is the show you're at. We had Ken as a babyface homecoming guy, and they cheered Zillow within 2 minutes of the match.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a great job of flipping it. Ken became more aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
Where some people will not change the notion of I'm a heel, I can't be cheered. We've evolved a lot. 1997, Stone Cold Steve Austin was never supposed to be a face, and by 1998, he was the biggest face in the company.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I'm going to bring this up now because John and I were talking earlier before you got on. We were reviewing the most recent DreamWave show, which was not
Okay.
last Saturday, but the Saturday before. A lot of talent on that show that you are very familiar with and will be appearing on your shows soon. Um,
Yep.
and I'll start with, um, well, I'll start with John. John was super impressed with J Rod.
Okay. Yep.
What
Yeah,
She's.
she was amazing.
she's wrestling Maggie Lee
I've
on
only
your show.
talked to her. Yep. I've only talked to her for a little bit. Like we've never actually had a phone conversation. We just talked through Instagram, but like she seems very professional. She's on top of OVW at the moment. Like sky's the limit.
Hmm. And one of the other matches we were talking about was there was supposed to be a fatal four-way for the Dreamwave women's title, and it ended up being a one-on-one. The fatal four-way originally had Zeta Steele and Megan Bain in it, and they got pulled for different promotions for basically the same reason, though. And it ended up just being Brittany Brooks taking on Maggie Lee. You and I have talked about Maggie Lee a bunch, but what's your experience level with Brittany Brooks?
We were supposed to have her about a year ago, and she ended up not being able to do the show. She now lives in Las Vegas. She lived in Arizona back when we talked to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Little side story, she's at least the last time I talked to her, she was dating Chris Bay.
Oh,
So like she's definitely getting her name out there.
yeah.
She's very she's very professional. Like I got nothing but good things to say about Brittany.
Yeah, John and I were just talking about like when we watched the matches and then found out later that she's only 20 years old. Holy cow, she's very, what do you say, polished?
Very polished.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, she reached out to me originally when she was, I believe, 17 or 18. I thought it was 17. And I refused to bring her in back then because I will not bring anybody in that's underage unless they're in the area for liability reasons.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And like it was a flight and everything else. And I'm like, your parents got to come with you. Like that's a whole hassle in itself.
Yeah,
Because like when we bring in female talent, there's times where we'll ask them to stay with another female talent, but if it's doable, we'd rather have them have their own room. And the reason being it's a protection thing.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. That brings to mind. I was saying earlier that I was watching the Shine show, Shine 81 on Sunday, and
Okay.
so I guess one of the people you're not quite yet ready to bring in is someone who appeared on that show, and that's Izzy Moreno. Remember, remember Bailey's biggest fan,
I
John?
do.
I do. It's been a long time.
Yeah. Well, she's got gold now. She's a champion, not at Shine, but other elsewhere. And I think they said she's 17. I don't think she's just quite turned 18 yet, but she's got the purple, she's got the bright colors, she's got the fangirl gimmick, she's got everything but the side pony, honestly. Um, but I was shocked when I heard she was wrestling on a pay-per-view. I mean, it's Shine, but I mean it's a pay-per-view at 17. Rich is saying I'm not touching that.
Yeah, with the liability of it, I can see why. That would probably, be something I would, if I was in, promoter's position, probably shy away from. Too many things can go wrong.
Mm-hmm. Rich, we've talked before about how you, I mean, we know you don't have a wrestling school, but what about from the perspective of somebody young underage, from the perspective of a wrestling school? Like, and I'm not calling them out. I'm just saying, Monster Factory out here on the East Coast, I see them posting that they have kids classes all the time. Do you think the wrestling school environment is different? Like it's easier to bring in underage kids to sort of do certain things with them because at that point they can just sign a liability
You
waiver, pay their fee, and just go.
you can do it. It's a matter of you got to have your parents behind it. And that's the hard part is like they may be all on board, but then they might be going, if something happens, are we gonna get sued over it?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're over 18 years old, you don't have that issue as much.
Right.
Um, have we had underage people work for us? Yes, but I don't like it because it's a slippery slope that can get really bad, especially if it's a female, because there are the hit-ons and all that stuff, and I just don't want to deal with it. We're
Yeah,
dealing with too many other things, and I don't want to deal with pretty much being babysitting after the show.
right. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. I probably wouldn't want to touch it either. Um, we're running down this list. I know, Rich, you probably have to go soon, so just say the word when you got to jump off. But the next one I wanted to hit was one that surprised me. You hurt them. You take them to the hospital and stay with them in the emergency room. Now, if this was Jon and we were out riding four-wheelers and I crashed into Jon and he got hurt, of course I'd take him to the emergency room. But in the wrestling setting, that kind of stood out to me. Is that something that's sort of a thing in wrestling that's sort of known between performers that that's what you do?
I've never heard that, but every place might be different. Like, I've never told people they had to do that. I mean, like, we've had a couple freak accidents. Jordan Blue got hurt pretty bad at our November 2nd show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she's fine now, but like, she never went to the hospital, but she definitely rested up and then flew back the next day.
And she got hit with
So,
that was like just to fill in Jon. I think Jordan, there was a triple threat. It was her and Maggie Lee and Lily Ruiz. And I think it was that exploder suplex into the buckles that got her head, right?
she did in the middle of the ring, but yeah, it's
Oh,
the Explorer suplex.
oh, I
She
see.
just didn't. She wasn't able to clear.
And she landed on her head.
Higher, like pretty much a higher neck, but not directly head,
Oof.
but pretty close.
Yeah. Jon just did it. That's exactly what I thought when I heard that. Holy cow. I'm sitting
Oof.
there, Jon, right? And I'm watching this happen. I see Jordan Blue, a total professional, slowly roll out of the
Mm.
ring and lay at ringside. And then officials started coming up like it was WWE TV and helping the injured lady. And I'm saying to myself, oh man, this is quite a work here they're pulling off on us. Nope. I was having this conversation with Rich about it.
Wow.
He's like, no, she was legit hurt. So she got legit hurt on her neck and then was professional enough to roll herself out of the ring in a manner that didn't even alert me. Again, I'm not the authority, but I mean, I've been watching wrestling for 40 years. It never alerted me that she was truly injured. I thought the thing was at work the whole time. It's impressive to me, really. And then Maggie hit that beautiful moonsault, and
Yep.
that was all she wrote.
So Jordan Blue, when she got hurt, they just ad-libbed the entire rest of the match. Like there was probably another 7 to 8 minutes left in that match that they just had to call on the fly to change everything.
Yeah,
The Maggie Lee was going over. I don't remember who was going to get pinned though.
right. Yeah, I thought it was. I thought they now knowing what I know now on the back end, it's really impressive to me. I know we're running out of time with you, Rich. Just a couple more until you tell me you got to go. But uh, no matching gear if possible. How is it the talent can plan to not have gear that matches another talent at a show? And is it something that's on your radar? Do you care about it?
I don't.
Okay.
I mean, like it's too hard to figure out what every single person wears.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I just it's like back when I used to DJ or whatever, with the people in the club, they'd say, "Oh, that guy played that record earlier. Why is this guy playing it again?" You're like, "Well, the guy just showed up to the venue with a bunch of records he was going to play in an order. He didn't know." But it was kind of the same thing in that industry too. It was like, "Well, you should know, or you should have been here early enough to hear the other guy play his music, so you knew which ones not to play." And it seems like we're kind of in that same vein here. Like, yeah, no, I mean, you can't avoid everything, but if you do what you're supposed to do, you can adjust on the fly, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, like our biggest thing is some people have the same finisher where we got to work on that a little bit, but otherwise, a lot of stuff like outfits and stuff, I don't worry too much about.
Hmm. Um, best not to drink until after the show. I wouldn't suggest drugs of any kind, even weed. Just because we accept it doesn't mean the building owner does, and we don't want to lose the damn building. Back to losing the building again. Have you ever had trouble with that, either with a venue or with performers or anything like that? Drugs and alcohol at the show?
I've had problems once,
Mhm.
and the person I addressed it immediately. Pretty much like you don't talk to somebody when they're under the influence because they're not going to remember it, and
Right.
it's gonna just be the point. You address it once the issue's over, and that person and I are good.
Right. That's good. That's good. I don't mean to make light of this, but the thing that pops into my head when you're saying that is watching the video. John, did you see the video of Jeff Hardy the last time he got pulled over for DUI? And they posted the video of him talking to the cops.
I don't think I've seen that one, no.
And they asked him at one point, "Where are you coming from?" And he said, "North Carolina." And they said, "Where are you going?" He said, "North Carolina." And they were like, "So
Hey, man,
you're headed from North
it's a big
Carolina to
loop.
North Carolina?" And again, I'm not making fun of Jeff, but I'm gonna get into what Rich is saying. Like, you can't talk to Jeff Hardy. You couldn't talk to Jeff Hardy in that state. He wasn't going to remember anything. And it's the same thing that Rich is talking about, I think. Thank every non-wrestler who helps out. Maybe they'll come back. What do you think of that, Rich? I'm curious about this one. Yeah, it says thank every non-wrestler who helps out.
It's definitely a positive thing, but like some shows have so many stagehands, it'd be hard to thank every single person.
Right.
I mean, like we're kind of a skeleton crew, and I do that on purpose. But like a lot of places have multiple people helping out. Like I don't expect like an assembly line by any means.
Mm-hmm. And this one is, I know this one falls into self-explanatory. John, maybe you can chime in on this one too, because this is, I know this is wrestling fans. This is just a simple one, but number 33, the boys get in for free. Don't wrestle for them. Or if you do wrestle for them, make them feel like a kid again. What do you think about that statement, Rich?
So the boys get in for free on what grounds? Why?
No. I'm saying it says the boys get in for free, so don't wrestle for them. Wrestle for the people who are paying.
Oh, okay. So pretty much what they're saying by it is don't do moves that's going to make the boys pop. Do moves that's going to make the crowd pop.
Mm-hmm.
Like you need to entertain the crowd that's paying the money to see the show. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about doing something to make other people laugh in the back.
Right. Right. I'm thinking of like the Young Bucks always breaking the fourth wall kind of stuff. Like, yeah, that pops the boys in the back, but the fans may not understand it unless they're reading all the dirt sheets kind of stuff, right?
Correct. Yes.
So that's most of the list. I know we're running out of time with you, Rich, and I really do appreciate you coming on. Anything before you go to update us on as far as RPW Homecoming coming up May 31st or RPW Destiny coming up September 27th? I know you said the cards are mostly filled out.
The cards are 100% filled out. We've had no cancellations. Front row and second row are both gone. So it's only general admission available for Homecoming.
Mhm.
And then there's third row left. I think there's 43 seats still left for the third row for the Appleton show on September 27th.
Nice.
Otherwise, those are general admission as well.
Very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And
So
those
like
of you
we try and plug ourselves. Well, I was gonna say we just try and plug ourselves really far ahead. That way, you can't wait till the last minute. Like we have people on our social all the time that go, "What do you mean front row's gone? It's 8 months away." It's like that's because it goes fast. People want to sit in the front row.
right? Yeah. Um, anything you ready to announce for a November, December show yet?
Nope. We got to get through September. September's the big one as far as we have a lot of stuff that has to go into place as far as attendance and everything else.
Right. Yeah,
That's a huge venue that we want to be back.
Right. Don't lose the building, right?
Awesome.
Exactly. It's one of those. If you ever saw the show Heels when they were working for the fair, that's kind of our fair.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Okay.
As far as that success rate, like we want to draw 600 to 700 people. That's our goal. We have an event that day in Appleton called Oktoberfest that draws 220,000 people.
Ooh.
I mean, if we get even 10% of those people, great. It's a matter of, is it going to be all wrestling fans? Probably not. There's probably going to be a bunch of drunk people that come and just want to be entertained. If we can do that for them, wonderful. It's going to be little interesting. Buff Bagwell is doing the meet and greet, and like he obviously had his stuff, so like he's not going to Oktoberfest, but it's a matter of he's going to see people that he probably knows what they are going through at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Best way to say it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I am. You and I have already talked. I am definitely making plans to try to be out there for Destiny. That card is just stacked. So I am looking forward to that. And then maybe the morning after Destiny, I will text you and ask you again about November shows.
Sounds good.
Just kidding. All right, but listen, Rich, thank you very much for coming on. As always, I would love to have you back in maybe a couple of weeks, and we can keep doing this with some more updates and talking some more stuff. Cool.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much, Rich. It's always great to have Rich Buchholtz on the show. We look forward to having him back next time. Always some really cool insight from a promoter's perspective. You know what I mean?
Exactly. He was my first time meeting him. Man, that was really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's talk about what's coming up this weekend, and let's get the hell out of here. Friday night, the 21st of February, Atomic Legacy Wrestling is having the Prophecy at Space Coast Convention Center in Cocoa, Florida, with Kevin Nash and Kurt Angle scheduled to appear. At the same time, Inc. is reuniting. Jesse Neal and Shannon Moore are reuniting to take on Mike Mondo and CJ Doyle, man. Do you remember Inc?
I do remember Inc. Shannon Moore, who doesn't love Shannon Moore?
Right.
And Jesse Neal's a horse, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. It's my favorite version of Shannon Moore, honestly. And he's one of those dudes that like has constantly changed and evolved so many different ways. It's nuts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Also on that show, the tag champs, the Rapture, will be issuing an open challenge, plus a triple threat match for the hardcore title. El Ridiculoso versus Tony DeVito versus Nick Gage. And that's going to get bloody.
Ooh, that's going to be somebody may need a Band-Aid.
Oh, and then the one that caught my attention, I had to look twice at the graphic when I realized who some of these dudes were, but Odyssey, in a triple threat Odyssey, taking on Baba Thunder versus Mbadu. Odyssey is the guy we used to know as Odyssey Jones. Baba Thunder is what was his Commander Aziz in WWE?
Commander Aziz, yes.
Yeah, and that's Odyssey Jones, who we know left
Commander
WWE.
Aziz and Baba Tunde.
Baba Tunde, yes, right. I knew it was Baba something. But Odyssey Jones leaving the WWE recently on very weird terms, with allegations that he had been physical with a woman at some point. She started posting stuff on Twitter. I don't know if any of that's true, but Odyssey's back in the business pretty quickly, so I guess we'll see. There was rumors that he was going to be part of the New Day, I guess, right before that all happened.
That's what I had heard. Hey, it could have been really cool.
That's right. Anyway. Another one of these promotions that's really catching my attention lately, Chicago Style Wrestling on Friday. They're having As Good as Dead at the American Legion in Franklin Park, Illinois. Women's champion Amina Belmont defending the title in a 5-woman gauntlet versus Blair Onyx, Lily La Pescadita, who we just talked about, Shaza McKenzie, and Haven Harris. Quintero will be taking on JJ Garrett for the Metra title. Shane Boucher will be taking on Solomon Tupu, and Jay Marston will be taking on Shane Hollister in double Jeopardy matches, meaning these two matches will be taking place at the same time, and then the winners of those two matches will face off against each other. Have you seen that before?
I've never seen that before, but you know what? That sounds cool.
Yeah, I'm down.
I'm definitely going to have to check that out. We'll have to find out somewhere because that one sounds too cool to miss.
Yeah. Chicago Style is frequently on IWTV, so I'm hoping they post that show.
Hey, man, if it's anywhere as good as their dogs, we'll take it.
Let's see. So Maggie Lee will be taking on Warhorse in an intergender match, and Rhino's going to make an appearance, taking on Hans Carden. World title match in the main event, Conan Lycan defending against Marche Rocket. In Denver, Colorado, at the Embassy Suites, Respect Women's Wrestling is having their latest event, featuring Nikki Chase taking on Lola, Paradise versus Lilith Grimm, Stormy Renee versus Bryn Thorne, and Emi Sakura versus Heidi Howitzer. I've only seen Emi Sakura once or twice, I think, on AEW. Have you seen any of her matches?
AEW, she's been around for a good bit. I want to say at some point, was she not in WCW for a hot minute back in the day?
She could have been.
I believe she ran through there right at the end of the promotion.
Good catch.
Listen, she's a legend, man. She's been around. She's done it all. Man, it's a good get for Respect Women's Wrestling. That's going to be a good match.
Absolutely. Let's see. Moving on to Saturday, Keystone Wrestling Alliance in Pittsburgh at the American Legion Post 496 is having their 25th anniversary show, featuring Man-Child defending the 5-star title against Shane Starr, New Glory defending the tag titles against Officer and a Gentleman, and Freak E. Doyle defending the Golden Triangle title against Daniel Exotic. John, I happened to catch Daniel Exotic at a show in Altoona that I went to with my dad. Excuse me. And Daniel Exotic, the gimmick is Joe Exotic based. There is.
Is it really?
Yes,
I was going to make the joke, but I figured sometimes it's better to hold back.
Oh no, you should have made it. It is well worth the price of admission. Daniel Exotic is great. Let's see. So in Delaware, a frequent guest of ours, or a recent guest of ours, Draven, the Blackbird King, is going to be performing. This is DCW The Ripper's Gambit, taking place at the Marydale Fire Department in Marydale, Delaware. The Ripper's Gambit match, the winner competes for the No Limit Championship at Guts and Glory 22 in March. Boom Harden versus Kaz Lee versus Sugar Dan Stofko versus Silent Storm's Mike Thunder, and versus the winner of the qualifying match. The qualifying match was just here a second ago. Here it is. Yeah. The qualifying match is our buddy Draven, the Blackbird King, who was on episode 2 a few weeks ago, taking on Hector El Toro. That will be the winner of that will be the last person added to that match. The DCW No Limits Championship is on the line as Dirty Sunny Deeds defends against Murmur. And there's an elimination tag match. Team Always Winning of Dave Reed, Mr. Miller, Mr. Ooh La La, and Cha Cha Chance taking on Team Nightmare, Jadis Quinn, Sidney Porter, Jet Empire, and a mystery partner. I did tell Draven I'd like to get out to see one of these shows. I don't know if it's going to be this Saturday, but I'd really like to get out there if I can. Let's see. Atlantic Pro Wrestling is holding an event at the Newburyport Elks Club in Newburyport, Massachusetts, featuring Milo Mira and his pogo stick, taking on Jason Maverick for the New England title. DJ Powers versus Vern Vicolo for the heavyweight championship. Livia. This is one I wanted to mention to you, John. I don't know. Have you seen Livia yet?
I have not.
She's another one of these. I think she's 18. I think she might have just turned 18. She may be 19. I don't know. Anyway, she's very young, but she's so polished and poised in the ring. I saw her on like a Rad Pro Wrestling show a couple months ago, and I followed her on social media right after, and I've been watching her ever since because I feel like she's gonna be something. So if you get a chance to check out Livia, I'm interested in your thoughts, John. I'm interested in all of you. Anybody who's listening, I'm interested in all of your thoughts on her as well. I think she's gonna be really big one day. She is the women's champion at Atlantic Pro Wrestling. She'll be defending against Sarah Jade. And for the tag team titles, the Neighborhood will be defending against Eric Cha-Cha and Koosh Bandicoot. Love that name.
Love it. Don't know anything about him, but on the name alone.
That's it. I'm in. NWA World League Wrestling is having Salute to Service 3 at Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri. Knox and Murdoch, the NWA Tag Team Champions, will be defending those belts against the Premier. Cameron Burnett will be taking on Skylar Sparks for the WLW Women's title. And the Blazing Guns will take on Dysfunction for the WLW Tag titles. UPW is having an event called Hometown Throwdown at Delta County Chamber of Commerce in Escanaba, Michigan. I hope I pronounced that right. Onyx Andretti taking on Jay Sin in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the UPW American title. The Society versus Ghetto Gear Solid in a non-title tag match. And Danny Moe versus Chaos in a women's division match. Bayou Independent Wrestling on Saturday is holding a show called Eliminate the Impossibilities at the Lincoln Civic Center in Brookhaven, Mississippi. Rook Tyler takes on Exodus Prime. Calientita versus Gia Michelle. Steve Anthony and Bam Bam Malone taking on Rob Love and Barrett Brown. And Caleb Conley versus Danny Chance for the BIW Southern title. John, do you remember Caleb Conley, or as he was known in TNA, Caleb with a K?
I do. Refresh my memory. Didn't they have him paired up with Chelsea Green for a little bit?
Yeah, it was it was one of those women. Yeah, he was paired up.
Yeah, he kid looks good. I like the gimmick. I don't like the gimmick he's still sticking with. But hey, more power to him, man. I'm glad to see he's still out there and going.
Yeah, me too. I'm the same as you. Like, I just thought the guy had something. He's got
absolutely
somehow, and he really popped in that intergender pairing too, like you were talking about. It really gave him a chance to sort of shine as the second.
It absolutely showed that he's got. He doesn't have to be the main focus to steal focus. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You couldn't help but watch what he was doing during all of the matches. So that he, as far as I was concerned, he was getting over without being much of the in-ring talent, which is hey, high marks for that, man.
No, seriously, it's hard to do. The show that I'll be watching on Saturday for sure, Freelance Wrestling is holding Tope Suicida Squad at the Logan Square Auditorium in Chicago. Regan Lydale, who's another young woman who is on the come up as far as I'm concerned. I've been really impressed with her work in Freelance in the matches that I've seen. She'll be taking on Eye Candy Elliott. Cole Radrick taking on Trevor Outlaw. And champion versus champion match, Coda Hernandez, the legacy champion, taking on the heavyweight champion, Alfonso Gonzalez. That match will be pretty cool. Yeah. On Sunday, Battle Club Pro is holding an event called Get Wrecked at Ale Wife Brewing in Queens, New York. Jorge Santi taking on Yaya for the franchise title. Federated taking on JTP South for the tag titles. And Masha Slamovich versus Santana Garrett. What is up?
Wow. That's dude, you put that one on show anywhere and that's a banger.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm such a Masha Slamovich fan, but I mean Santana Garrett is a pro, man, and she's been around forever.
Yep.
Oh, that match is going to be so good. 2 more shows on Sunday. Excite Wrestling is holding Johnny Stock at the X2 at Arnott Mall in Horsehead, New York. Anthony Gangon taking on Cade Lothbrook Anthony Gangon versus Cade Lothbrook versus Pat Sawyer in a triple threat. The Even Stevens defend the tag titles against Trevor Terry and Tyler Reed. Christina Marie takes on the Platinum Princess Valentina, and HC Locke versus Dan Barry. Now, this last show is one that I was really interested in when I saw the card. Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment is holding a show called Shit Hit Different at Meta Multimedia in Atlanta, Georgia. And let me tell you, this shit does hit different. AJ Francis taking on Big Ben Bishop. Carly Bravo versus Shane Marks in a title unification match. Sal Renaro versus Caleb with a K, Caleb Conley, and Kelsey Reagan taking on Alexis Littlefoot in a women's division match. That show is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's definitely one we're going to try to check out, man, because, listen, all those guys can go.
Mm-hmm. I'm down. But listen, John, that's all I've got for this week. I mean, we've only been going at it almost 3 hours, but what the hell? You got anything else for us?
No, man. It was great talking to everybody, and getting finally to meet Rich. Hanging with my buddy, man.
Yeah, man.
It doesn't get much better.
No, man, this is a blast. I'm having so much fun. Next week, we are back with Brock's Boulder who wrestles for Route 33 Wrestling. He's one half of their tag team champions, Grappling Inc. Brox also has a fairly successful podcast. So we'll be talking to Brox about his time in wrestling. We'll be talking about the Route 33 show coming up on March 1st, where Grappling Inc. will be defending the tag team titles in a match that was just announced on Route 33's social media yesterday. We'll be talking about all sorts of stuff. I'm looking forward to having him on, and that'll be that next week. Brock's Boulder, but for now, I guess I'll just say back to the link tree, guys. Follow us. Go to the Indy Wrestling Experience link tree. You can find us Facebook, Instagram. We are Indy Wrestling Experience. Twitter and Blue Sky. We are Indy Wrestling XP. We are on TikTok. We are on Smug Mug. We are on wherever else I missed. Threads. We're on all those places. Find us. If you go to theindyWrestlingExperience.com and pull up literally any of my posts, you go to the bottom. There's like 10 different social buttons for you to click and join the conversation with us. So check them all out. Join us in the conversations. We look forward to seeing you next time. Jon, thanks again. And everyone else, see ya.